On the broadcast podcast, we have Osama Baig with us. I'm really, really happy that you came in twice. Yesterday was a bit of a blunder, but today we're on track. So thank you for coming.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Nazar and Bashaar.
Yeah.
So
I feel like from yesterday's experience, we know you a lot better now.
yeah, it was a good intro, and I think
It was great. I had fun.
I did too.
I wish that conversation was recorded as well, because I think we went on some really cool tangents, talked about some really cool things, and then suddenly it was just it was one of those things where it wasn't recorded, so it's just between the three of us. But those conversations really impressed me, man. I feel like you're well learned. You know your shit. That's good.
Thank you, and I think we have so much in common. I felt that that background, the Pakistani background, and also just so many things in common. I found.
Yeah.
So
I just want to jump right into it. I got you and I started YouTube almost at the same time, and first I looked at your channel. And I was a bit what is this going to be about? Is it going to be about engineering stuff? Is it going to be about, daily routine stuff? And then once I got into your channel, I was really interested, even though I'm someone who ran away from the engineering life. I was in engineering for a year and a half, and then I was bro, I can't do this anymore. So I dipped. I went into business, and then looking at your stuff, I was you know what? You can make it look cool. And someone coming from a really pragmatic place, how did you find your niche in going from the engineering lifestyle into the arts? Because YouTube is basically the arts, right? How did you do that?
man, that's an amazing question, and I feel sometimes there seems to be a divide between engineering and the arts, right? It's masculine versus feminine,
Right.
right? And or Mars versus Venus, right? That you can't mix the two, right? And I felt that growing up as a kid, as kids, we're all artists. No kid is an engineer by birth.
Yeah, that's true.
No kid is.
We're more creatives than we are. Yeah.
Yeah,
true.
those days when you're growing up and drawing and just exploring without any fear of any repercussions.
Yeah.
That's what art is.
Yeah.
Right. And I love art, but for me, a logic and engineering, something, taking all that science and mathematics and those and applying that, for me, that's almost like an art as well.
Yes.
Right.
And I like the way you fused the two, because for me, those were two separate things. There was no Venn diagram. Nothing was overlapping for me. And me as a creative who was in engineering for a year and a half, that was the biggest wall that I was facing when I was in engineering, because there was no way for me to really release my creative side. And I felt you found a way to do that. And I commend you on that, because I struggled with it for a while.
Yeah, thank you. I really struggled with that as well.
Yeah.
And I really want to know about your journey in your kind of your first year.
Oh man, it was brutal. It was.
I want to ask both of you guys, because I was kind of on the fence when I was in grade 11. I was you know what? I want to fulfill my dad's dream. I want to be an engineer, a mechanical engineer.
Fulfill my dad's dream is the key word.
Fulfill my dad's dream. But I never kind of got into it because I was really bad at physics and chemistry. So that was not a question for me to go into engineering anymore. So that's why I switched to business. Yeah. But you guys actually got into the engineering program. You guys were in engineering. You were there for a bit, but you finished your degree. How does someone kind of get that realization that, I want to be an engineer? And for you, you're very unique because you're a nuclear engineer. So why that side of things?
Yeah, those are some really good questions. But first, I want to know about your dad's dream.
Bro, my dad's dream.
I feel
it's the typical brown dad dream, bro. One son has to be an engineer, one son has to be a doctor. Both of us are neither. So he's every time he looks at an engineer, he's like, man, that could have been my son. I'm doing YouTube though. Come on.
I always feel like brown dads, brown immigrant parents, the thing with them is that they, at some level, they weren't able to live up to their dreams because they had to give up their life back home and come up here. So in a way, they want to live their dreams through the reflection of their kids.
Yeah.
That's why probably my dad wanted me to be an engineer, or for him to be a doctor, hypothetically. So
yeah, it's a lot of the immigrant parent lifestyle is really, there's a lot of sacrifices, right? So we have the luxury and the privilege to bitch about or moan about oh man, I had to go through something I didn't really want to do. But like we forget that our parents and our grandfathers and our grandparents literally survived wars and mass like incarcerations and massacres to like be alive. And we take that for, I mean, it took me a while to like reconcile with that, but it took me once I understood where the history was and where he's coming from, like I get it. Like our parents just want us to be financially
Secure.
so we don't have to see what they saw. So it's coming from a place of love, but at the same time, it's hard to like it gets difficult for us to like really understand that background because we haven't lived through it. And I was at odds with my parents a lot because of that. Because I'm a creative. I want to be a writer. I want to be a Renaissance man. Like I want to paint. I want to take pictures. I want to be that guy. But like the truth is that it's hard to sustain that unless you're like the best already. And you know, I'm still going through the motions and trying to like make peace with that fact. But I have to do it on my own terms, and I'm doing it. And that's why this podcast started. That's why the YouTube thing started. Short stories, poems, all of that. And yeah, and it made us come and sit together and have this conversation. So I'm glad that awareness was there, you know?
But what was it for you? Was it more like engineering was a calling for you, or was it like, you know, something similar to ours?
So to start off, I can really empathize with that mindset, you know, us coming from Pakistan, from India, Sri Lanka, right? Our parents, they want, it's like their kids, and I'm sure we'll be there in, you know, 10 to 15 years, right?
Yeah.
We want to, our kids' lives are like a continuation of ours, right? In a sense where we want to push them toward the comfort zones where we never ever stepped, right?
Yeah.
And so I applaud my parents. And what started off for me, my childhood journey, was that my parents really wanted me to be a doctor.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
And there was no idea of engineer. Okay.
Yeah.
No one talked about engineer in my family or lawyer because, you know, no one really understood those subjects in my household that well.
Same.
Well enough to kind of.
It's also really cool because we all are from Karachi.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
I think Karachi is a breeding ground for doctors.
Bro, there's so many doctors coming out from Karachi.
Universities there.
4 medical schools. Imagine 4 med schools in Toronto. It would be crazy. There's 4 in Karachi. Like, and that's just like the private ones. No, I'm not even talking about the government ones. There's like so many doctors coming out every year in that part of the world.
Definitely. And my family has doctors, and I'm sure you guys as well, uncles and aunts. And I get it. Like my parents, they wanted me to help humanity. Yeah. Right? Their intention was that, hey, listen, you're going to go out there and save lives. Yeah. Right? As a doctor. And eventually, so from the age of 3 years old or 2.5 till the age of 18, I wanted to be a doctor. Yep. Right? Till grade 11, grade 12. And the moment I realized it wasn't for me was when I took biology.
Oh my God.
All right.
Wait, grade 11 biology or was it?
It was grade 11.
Yes, that's where they get you.
That's where they get you because the realization is, you know, you get your ass kicked.
Yes,
right?
It's hard. It's tough, man. There's so many like words and the thing. Oh, don't even get me started, man. I'm getting PTSD just thinking. It was tough. It was tough passing that course.
Yeah, it was mission impossible. Yeah. And don't get me wrong. I love biology. I love learning about the human body. I love learning about different hormones and everything about biology. I love. Yeah. What I don't understand is all this knowledge, all this hard work, and what's the end result? It's kind of like a story, a love story reaching its peak. Yeah. Right. And there's no end.
What's the application for it?
Yeah. Like, what's the end?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what happens at the end?
Nothing. You just more learning.
Yeah. So for me, I wanted that story to end.
Yeah. You wanted resolution for it.
I wanted resolution, and the way the story ended for me was engineering. Yeah. Because it starts off with the biology. It starts off with the physics and the mathematics. The story builds up. Yeah. It reaches its climax, the Renaissance, et cetera, right? And then it reaches its climax when the product is built, when that bridge is built,
Yep.
when that reactor is built.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like a story for me, and I was like, okay, story complete. I want to do this.
Again, I see that you like really emphasize the creative side in like stuff that's very pragmatic, and I commend you on that because I couldn't do that. There was no way for me to build that bridge between the two, and I felt suffocated in that STEM universe. You know, like it was just. I don't know. I was more depressed. I was felt frustrated. Like I needed a creative outlet and I couldn't find it. And I'm glad that you did because I feel like looking at you, watching your videos, having this conversation with you, you seem at peace with it.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Thank you so much. And I think the creative outlet in any field, I think it's kind of difficult to achieve because when you look at the development of the evolution of humans, creativity came very later on in our brain, in the development of the human brain, right? We have our animal brain, our reptilian side,
right,
which is our sexual desires, movement,
hunger,
sight,
hunger,
right? These are things that like we need, right? And then you go on, and at the end is the neocortex, which is your creativity.
Yep.
Right? And that's the most evolved side of the brain.
Yep.
Right? If you're stressed, if you're in an environment where it's hostile, right? You're threat, an animal is going to attack you. You can't be creative. So I agree with that. Your environment has a very strong influence on creativity.
And I'm glad that you found a way to bridge the gap between that. My other question was, what are your goals with your YouTube channel? Because we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but I really want to know where do you see this channel growing? Like where do you see the creative side? Do you see it taking over your pragmatic side? Do you see maybe in 10 years you don't work in the nuclear engineering field anymore and you're all YouTube? What's the end goal with that?
Trying to build like different streams of income.
Yeah.
You can like work part-time and do this full-time.
Those are some really good questions. And to be honest, success on these platforms, it's kind of like lightning.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't always strike when you want it to.
Yeah.
All right. And I think with YouTube, what motivated me to do YouTube was, listen, I've been on this planet 24 years now.
Yeah.
Right. And what have I contributed? What have I done? Right. I've done a degree. I've actually taken more than I've given.
Yeah, sure.
Right? My parents have raised me. They've invested. The government has invested with my OSAP, right? Which I haven't paid off yet, right? Right?
Good luck with that.
And I've just been taking, eating, right? What have I given back to the world? So if I were to die at this moment, it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah.
Like I would kind of be like, oh shoot, what did I give?
Yeah.
So are you feeling that this YouTube channel is in a way making you immortal in the sense that your content will always stay there? People can always learn from it. And
as long as the internet survives.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good way to look at it, right?
Definitely. I think
because it doesn't end with you then. Because the giving back to society, to people, doesn't end when you end. Because that stuff is there forever. Do you feel like that's your way of like, how in Harry Potter, Voldemort had his Horcruxes? Is this your Horcrux? Is this a way for you to stay forever?
In a way, but I think it's like a wave. So that YouTube, that creative outlet, every time we make a video, we put something out there, it's a wave. And each wave can affect people differently. For someone, it's a tsunami, right?
Yeah.
For another person, it's like a ripple.
Yeah.
It's not going to impact their life.
Yep.
So if I create an impact on someone's life through words, so the power of words, right? Then I can potentially, I feel fulfilled. That, hey, this had some sort of impact. Yeah.
I mean, that's great. Like you feel like you have a responsibility to give back, and that's good. I really respect that.
I think you talk about like being fulfilling and you're making an impact in the world. So I was going through your channel, and I know you're a nuclear engineer, obviously. At the same time, I was watching Bill Gates' documentary, Inside Bill's Brain, on Netflix. And one of the big parts that he's working on is trying to push nuclear energy. And that's the next wave of the future that he thinks. And he's been doing so much research and investing his own money on it. But recently, because of the sanctions with China and the US, they weren't able to go through with it. But tell us more about nuclear energy and how it can actually save the world and where it's going. Because you had a video about that as well.
Definitely. And yeah, Bill Gates is a very big advocate for nuclear energy, and he has his own company.
Yeah.
It's called TerraPower.
TerraPower, yeah.
And they're utilizing thorium, which is actually an interesting fuel we'll get into later.
Yeah.
But nuclear energy and how it will save the world. So the way I got into nuclear engineering, let's start off with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just had a family friend of mine, and he recently graduated as a nuclear engineer.
Yeah.
And my super successful real estate agent, he owns like, I don't know, a multi-millionaire by now,
Oh, yeah.
right? And he's like, hey, my son just, he just graduated and this and that. And
Shout out to UIT.
shout out to UIT.
All those both UIT alums here. So
And yeah, he just kind of pitched that program.
yeah.
And my brother jumped into that program, right? Just kind of like, okay, this is a good industry. And I followed his footsteps.
Yeah.
But later, I realized that nuclear energy or nuclear power is one of the most sustainable forms of energy production, right? Like when I was a kid, I was heavily into the eco club, right? Like environmental organizations on campus. And every year in my middle school, we used to go to a what do you call this? There used to be this big conference that was held.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Like an energy conference.
like an energy conference. I can't think of the word.
Yeah.
Right. And we used to go every single year. I used to be sent on behalf of my middle school. And there, I never saw anything to do with nuclear power. It was just solar, wind, hydro, right?
Yeah.
Trees everywhere and eco this.
Yep.
But I never saw anything to do with nuclear energy. And when I learned the truth about nuclear, about how it's zero greenhouse gas
Right.
emissions, how the amount of fuel that you would use
Yeah.
in your entire life
Yeah.
would fit into a soda can. That's how much waste is produced.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's revolutionary. If it's just the stigma behind it, it's really
With everything that's happened with nuclear,
Yeah.
the Chernobyl events, people are still very hesitant because they don't believe, like they still think there's a factor of human error involved, which can be like disastrous. But how can they eliminate that? Like, how can people push towards nuclear energy?
Definitely. Those are some, like Fukushima, Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And, those are some huge events
Yeah.
that happen. It's almost like 9/11.
Yeah. BBC made a whole show on Chernobyl, and like that's how people got to know, like, oh my God, that's how bad it was, because there's stigmas around it. And then like someone who's a layman who doesn't really know anything about nuclear engineering or nuclear power, you tell them about it, and the first thing that they think about is Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They think about the atom bombs that were dropped in Japan. Like, it's really hard to break away from that stigma. Like, what do you think is the way out then?
Man, I think it's a PR problem.
Yeah.
It's a PR problem, it's a marketing problem, and it's a branding problem, right? And it's similar to, I'll give you an example where I'm a Muslim, right? I grew up here.
Yep.
You guys are Muslim as well.
Yes.
So you can relate.
Yeah.
And my name's Osama,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I grew up during 9/11
Yeah.
in Canada.
Right?
How is that like?
Man, we'll get into that later, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Traumatic, I'm assuming.
that event, right?
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I think I was in grade 2 or grade 1.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the TV, and just every channel that I would switch to, they were just saying my name, Osama.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And wow, like that event was kind of like Chernobyl,
Yeah.
Yeah.
where Muslims, which were seen as once, almost like Aladdin and a genie,
Yeah.
right? Almost like cool Orientals,
Yes.
right? Oriental mystics, right?
Yep.
Were now transformed into these bad guys, these guys with big beards and turbans and
Yep.
and just terrorists that want to kill us.
Yeah.
And I think nuclear is very similar, because there came an age in the world in the 1940s to the 1970s, 1980s, before Chernobyl,
Yeah.
where nuclear was this dawn of the new age.
Yeah.
It was the atom, the power of the atom.
Yeah.
Like society was just like, let's do nuclear. And the whole world was building nuclear power
Yeah.
plants.
Yeah.
And then once that 9/11 event happened, or Chernobyl, right? overnight, this one source of power, which was so sustainable and so environmentally friendly and reliable and safe, just became demonized.
Yeah, it turned into a threat. So you're right. It is a PR problem. I guess if they find a way to like make it what's it called, like socially acceptable, like people in the masses are like rally support for it, I think there's a future there. Because again, speaking of Bill Gates' documentary, the more that I learned about it, the more I was fascinated. I was like, this is something we should be tapping into right now.
Yeah.
'Cause even the engineers who were talking about Chernobyl and Fukushima and all that, they were talking about how the engineering of that plant was prehistoric, basically. It was from the 60s and 70s.
It was never remodeled.
Yeah, it's not modern technology that they were using in those plants. And if you build a modern 2020 nuclear power plant, the percentage of error is so small. It's almost nearly impossible for you to screw it up. And that's what Bill Gates was pushing for. And that's, I think, what you're also talking about, right?
Definitely. And even if you look at Fukushima, it's not that the plant was old, right?
Yeah.
These old power plants are actually really, really safe.
Yeah.
Right? Like Pickering, just down the street from where we are right now.
Yeah.
5 kilometers.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe more. 10 kilometers. It is one of the safest nuclear power plants. It was built in the 1970s, around when Chernobyl was built.
We still got a warning earlier this year.
Oh, that was scary. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. That warning was a mistake, actually.
Yeah. Again, so stuff like that. Again, PR problems. So if people who don't know, like sometime in January, we all woke up to a warning from the nuclear power plant saying that, what was it? Like something, radiation or something like that. And for like a good, and they didn't even send like,
it was super early in the morning as well.
Super early in the morning. They didn't send a retaliatory, like, oh, I'm sorry, we're sorry, this is like a mistake, for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
People were losing their minds, bro. I had neighbors moving out.
I had class that day. My prof canceled the class because as soon as he heard the news, he lives in Pickering. He put his kids and wife in the car and he drove to his cottage 2 hours away. So he was like, I was so scared.
Wow.
And again, like stuff like that, it's gonna harm it, but the advantages still remain. Like that's, I don't know how much power Pickering power plant supplies to Pickering, but you know, it's been there for 40 years, 50 years. It's been okay. We're shutting it down I think in a couple of years as well. Nothing's happened to it. There's actually a power plant in Karachi as well that Canada built. I think it's called Canup. And that one's working fine as well. It's been 50 years for that one. And, you know, like if you really want to move away from fossil fuels, I feel like this is the way to go.
Definitely. And that error or that message that was broadcast, my mom was telling me, she's like, oh, look, there's a nuclear emergency.
Yeah, it's all your fault.
And you know what I said to my mom? I'm like, listen, mom, that is impossible.
Yeah.
Okay. Or that is a 1 in a billion chance of that happening. Yeah. I told my mom, I'm like, listen, I understand
Where were you at the time?
I was at home. Yeah.
In Saga or
just in Mississauga.
Okay.
Right? Because I think this was a weekend.
Yeah.
Right? I think it was Sunday morning or something.
Could be, yeah. Could be.
And I told my mom, like, listen, it's impossible.
Yeah.
And because I understand that system.
Yeah.
Right? It's a fail-proof system.
Yeah.
So going back to Fukushima, I don't want to get into the technicalities, but But basically, it was not the design. Oh, it was the design, actually.
It was the design.
It was the design, right?
Yeah. It wasn't the plan itself, though.
It was the design, but it was also negligence.
Yeah.
Right? The Japanese Nuclear Commission, they were told well in advance by even the CNSC, the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, that listen, the tsunami, once in 1,000-year tsunami can hit this, or once in a 1,000-year earthquake can hit this plant, and a tsunami can go over this tsunami wall. So you should build this tsunami wall higher, and you should move the backup generators to a safer place.
Higher place. Yep.
If those backup generators worked, if they weren't flooded by the water, that plant would still be here.
That's what the Bill Gates documentary talked about as well. And I was just like in awe of the human stupidity of just something so simple like that, right?
Definitely.
Like that's common sense that you want to put your backup generators in a place of higher altitude so it doesn't wash away, and that you basically earthquake proof your nuclear power plant, because it's safe and all, but the second that thing goes off, it's gone. And I was just in awe of it.
It's cool that you touched upon your name being Osama, and then with recent events that happened, like on 9/11. It's been 19 years now. How did you find growing up? I know people, like when I was back in Karachi, when they used to apply for an American visa, I know someone personally whose name was Osama, and he changed his name to a different name just so that he might not get rejected by the visa the people.
Wait, did he get rejected though?
No, he's still there. So how did you find that? What was that experience like?
Man, that experience was honestly, it was. I think I'm grateful for that experience because sometimes when you go through so much pain and you go through so much hardship, at the end of that you're actually grateful because you see things from a different perspective, a different lens.
Yeah.
Growing up my childhood was very, very tough, right? Because not only because the GTA was not very multicultural back then. Yeah. There weren't as many Muslims.
Not as diverse back then.
Yeah, not at all. Like there were barely any, like there weren't as many immigrants.
Yeah.
Back in 2001. And my family recently moved to Canada as well. Yeah. Right, from Saudi Arabia. And
were you born there?
I was born in Saudi Arabia.
Us too.
Oh, nice. Where? What city?
Jeddah,
yeah, same here.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, what hospital?
Bukhshan.
No. Okay.
Oh.
I think ours was like King Abdulaziz.
Yeah.
Okay.
King Abdulaziz. Bro, that would be insane. Why just like be born on when's your birthday?
April 4th, 96.
No. I'm 14th August 96. So it couldn't be the same like day, but it could have been the same hospital, bro. That's crazy. Sorry, continue.
So just coming to that new environment, to learning how to speak English.
Yeah.
Right. And just adapting to that lifestyle was so difficult. Yeah. And then on top of that, 9/11 happened, where your name, Osama, becomes almost like, you like Harry Potter, so almost like Voldemort.
Yeah. Yes.
That no one says that name.
Yeah.
Right? They don't even say Voldemort.
Yeah.
And when you hear Voldemort, everyone just, right? Yeah, everyone just reacts.
That's a good analogy.
Especially with kids. They don't know the difference between good or bad. They're just mimicking what their parents are saying. Yeah. If your parents are saying like vulgar things like that, then that's what you're gonna bring to school, and that's what leads to bullying and stuff like that. Yeah, we were in the States when 9/11 happened as well. We were in California, and but we were in Fremont, which is a predominantly like multicultural place, which has a lot of Arabs, a lot of Afghans are there. A lot of Pakistanis were there too. So I don't think we really felt the brute force of it. But once we grew up a little bit and I read accounts of kids from that era, it was brutal, man. Like I totally sympathize with you guys. That sucks.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough experience, but you know what? Those are the hurdles that make you stronger.
Yeah.
Right. And I think if it wasn't for my name, you mentioned your friend wanting to change his name. And, throughout my life, my parents always wanted to change my name.
Yeah.
Right. And that was my identity. Right.
Yeah,
like
you're Osama,
that's
man.
crazy. Yeah.
Like that's who I was. Right. Yeah. And people ask me even very, just were you named after Osama bin Laden?
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, listen, 9/11 happened 2001. I was born in 1996.
That's a
like
compliment.
what?
I think you're young.
Yeah. Like what stupid question is this?
Yeah.
Right. Or even at the workplace, I joined as an intern in my first year. Right. My second year after my second year of university, 2015. And my coworker at a party, meeting everyone, is like, haha, Osama bin Laden. Right. Like when he meets me, I'm like, dude, like I'm in a professional environment. Yeah. And this is kind of like the last place I would want to experience that.
In high school, because my first name is Ahmed. And my grade 10 math teacher, just joking around, she said, oh, ha, 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 Ahmed the dead terrorist. Like, the puppet thing?
Yeah.
Who's it by?
I don't know, but that was his character's name. It was a skeleton kind of thing. And his name was Ahmed the dead terrorist.
Okay, no, that's a funny skit though.
No, okay, no, but she
just,
can't
sorry.
call me that.
It's ridiculous. How did you reply? What did you say?
I kind of just shrugged it off. Like, what am I gonna do? I didn't know my rights back then. I could have gone to the VP and be like,
"Me too, that shit, bro."
Huh?
Me too, that shit. Cancel her right now. Honestly, do it. Name her.
I think she's retired now. So
that was tough then.
Yeah, it was definitely tough.
Bashaar has been trying to change his name since forever because people can't say his name properly. Like even Pakistanis.
Bashar.
Bashar, right? People say Bashar.
Yeah.
People say Bashar. What is
Bashir.
Bashir. He gets Bashir a lot.
Basharat.
Yeah.
And I also have this kind of identity crisis where my first name is Ahmed, my middle name is Bashar. So on paper, my name is Ahmed, like my first name, so everybody calls me Ahmed. But when I come home, everybody calls me Bashar. And so when I'm like in an environment where it's like a family friend where he kind of knows me from school and from home, and he's like, "What's your name?" I'm like, "What's my name?" You know, I have that SpongeBob moment where I know everything, but I don't remember my name. I don't know what to tell them. Like, what's my name? So,
I mean,
yeah.
I had that, like, you know, in a lot of brown households, you have like 7 names, right? I have like 5 names. My full name is Muhammad Nazar Huda Sayyid, right? That's 4 names. And so in Karachi, everybody goes by their middle name for some reason. So my name was Nazar, my middle name is Nazar, so everybody's going to call me Nazar. My friend's middle name is Mohsen, everybody's going to call him Mohsen. Here, it goes first name, last name basis. So suddenly my first name is Muhammad, my last name is Sayyid, but that's not who I really am.
Yeah.
So the first thing I did when I went to high school was completely change that. Like when people were taking attendance, they'd call me Muhammad and I'd be like, okay, that's my name, but I go by my middle name. So immediately they're like, okay, fine. They cross off Muhammad, they write Nazar. And I made that switch really early. Even in UYT, it's not, yeah, if I write my name, I write the full name, Muhammad Nazar Sayyid. But most teachers know me as Nazar. So I made that switch really early because I didn't want to go through that.
Yeah.
That's messed up.
Now I think it's too late.
Yeah, you're gonna have to live with this identity crisis for the rest of your life.
There's a lot of people in my family like that too. I have a cousin named Ahmed Zohaib Sayyid, and his work people in Pakistan know him as Ahmed, and his at home everybody calls him Zohaib or Zubi. And
All of my 4 mamus, their names are the same. Like they're
and our Nana and our
Sayyid,
uncle.
Tashfeen, Ashraf, Sayyid, Asfar, Ashraf. So on paper, all their names are Sayyid Ashraf.
All
4 of
4
them.
and their dad.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
They're all named Sayyid Ashraf.
I think this kind of makes it clear that Pakistanis need to fix the
Bro,
name problem.
Either that or we gotta like somehow teach these people that, you know, middle name is a thing, and we that's what we are recognized by. What else are you into? Because I saw a lot of your YouTube videos about minimalism and stuff like that, and he's really into minimalism as well.
Oh wow! Tell me a bit about your minimalist journey.
Well, I don't have a journey yet. I'm just reading about it, but I'm just very fascinated by the idea of only owning what you need and not going for what you desire. Because I feel like we were living at a time where everyone's just like, buy this, buy that, consume this, get entertained by this. And so we're constantly being pushed to buy things that we certainly don't need for sense. And I also have this thing where it's weird, but I feel like, you know, you can buy a house, you can buy a car, but all these things just keep tying you down, right? If you finance a car, you're like stuck for 5 years. If you mortgage a house, you're stuck for 30 years trying to make those payments. So where is that financial freedom that you're kind of looking for? All you're doing is just putting yourself more in debt. So that's my idea of being minimalist. But tell me more about your journey and what you think is your outlook on it.
Yeah, I love that financial perspective of minimalism. For me, the perspective kind of came from productivity and success, right? That I love history, right? And when you go back in history and you look at materialism, right?
Yeah.
I think our civilization has pretty much reached its peak where we have become very materialistic.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like
Right.
capitalism, consumerism is on the rise.
Not only with material, but with calories,
Oh yeah.
with information, right? So we're just hoarding information. That's just not quality information.
Yeah.
Or quality food, or quality material, right?
Yes.
How was that Popeye sandwich though?
Oh, have you had it yet?
I have. I was on the keto diet. And I still,
Out of 10
a-
right now. Let's say, what is it?
honestly, I think I like the sandwich a bit better.
Just the normal.
The normal sandwich.
What about you? Have you had it yet?
I haven't had it yet, but
I
I've
liked
heard
it.
similar things.
If you've ever had Zinger burgers from Karachi, that's what it tastes like.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it.
I like the bun.
Yeah, the bun is nice, but I wouldn't kill a man for it like they did in the US. Like, what the hell? I don't think it's worth murder. Like, personally speaking, I don't know what anybody else feels, but I'm not pulling up with a strap. Like, where's my sandwich? You know?
Yeah. It wasn't like 20 out of 10, right?
Yeah, I did.
It was all right. It was. I'd say I give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Sure, yeah. I think I'm around that same ballpark.
Was it worth the hype?
I don't think so.
Nah.
For sure, no.
It's good marketing, though.
It is. It
Did
is.
you go to Popeyes and see like the lineup for that sandwich?
Dude, I live right underneath Popeyes.
We were.
Like my condo
Yeah.
is right next to like underneath the Popeyes. Yeah.
And that's crazy because there's Popeyes right down the street, and me and my friend went. Typical Thursday, like grabbing a sandwich, and there was a lineup till like outside. It
Wow.
was like a good 35-minute wait.
Whew.
It's crazy.
Oh my god.
Sorry, back to what you were saying.
Back to minimalism.
Yeah, from Popeye sandwich to minimalism.
So the idea of success and productivity, it's really pushed me, right? It's having that name Osama and going through those struggles, right? That identity, right? That, hey, listen, I'm not someone who's backwards.
Yeah.
I don't come from a backwards culture where we repress women, where we don't value education, where we don't value human rights, where we don't all flaunt our wealth from oil money, right? And we believe in peace.
Yeah.
And we believe in moral virtues, right? Just like the rest of humanity. And for me, that was challenged, right? The challenge, right? The label, the branding, right? Was that everything that is, that I believe in, was thought of, was demonized and was seen as evil. And that was basically, that title was given as like Osama bin Laden.
Right.
At the time, the world's '1 terrorist.
Yep.
So for me, that became a bit of a driving force for me going forward in my life. That, Zid,
Yeah.
right? Like there's an Urdu expression called Zid, right? Which means, what does it mean?
I think it would mean stubbornness, like really like steadfastness.
Trying to prove a point that I have to do this.
Stubbornness.
Yeah.
And I had that stubbornness, like, listen, I'm going to prove you guys wrong. I'm going to prove this community, the society that believes this wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And the way, the medium for that was through becoming successful.
Yeah.
Was through pushing the boundaries, through, listen, I suck at math. I struggled with math.
Yeah.
My whole life. That was my kryptonite.
Wow.
That was my kryptonite. Because, I'm a creative. I'm someone who loves to write. I love the arts.
Yeah.
And I sucked at math.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, I'm going to go into the freaking hardest engineering program
Ever.
and I'll be successful.
And you made it out, man. Like,
And I made
props to
it.
you. Again,
I think you're doing a great job rebranding the name Osama. And
so how does that tie with minimalism again? Sorry, I cut you off.
I think, the push for success and productivity, right? It's all linked into that name, right? Whether it be driving forward in terms of career, driving forward in terms of my moral values and my lifestyle, being a role model, right? Being that representative of that name, right? And also being a minimalist feeds into that. Looking back in history, you'll see different civilizations like the Mongols.
Yeah.
They were minimalists.
Yeah.
And
All
I think
you need is a sword and a spear, man, when you're a Mongol, and then you're just raving through Asia.
Does that also have to tie into the wallet that you have? Is that why you bought it, or was it just like a cool thing?
I think maybe subconsciously, I wasn't into minimalism back then.
Yeah.
I think I got that wallet maybe 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But maybe subconsciously, I wanted to kind of have that less of a cognitive load on my mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you look at the Mongols, kind of a bad example because Genghis Khan kind of destroyed like half the planet and took over. Or if you look at even the Arabs, they were Bedouins.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything. They didn't have wealth. They didn't have resources. They didn't have education, right? Like the Roman Empire was flourishing at that time.
Yeah.
The Persian Empire was flourishing. They had philosophy. They had thousands of years worth of philosophy and history and it's such an elaborate lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you see these Bedouins, people who are backwards culturally, knowledge-wise, physically, not as powerful, and they take over these two great empires within 30 years.
Yep.
How is that possible? And I think minimalism is one strong reason why.
Yeah.
Their lifestyles they didn't have all this material to look after.
Yeah.
They could take these risks, right? And I think cognitively, if you look at the effects of minimalism on the mind, that mental load is just not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can focus on what your life's true meaning, true purpose is,
Yeah.
right? Without having all this material objects stuffing up your mind.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really liberates you for, in life, minimalism.
I agree. I think, and if you also want to like tie it into the more of the Islamic and religious perspective of things, that, consuming all these things and being distracted so often by so many things around us, it kind of makes us not think of the question of why are we actually here on this planet? Like, why are we here? Why are we consuming so much? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, how many things you have, we're all going into the same grave. We're not taking anything with us. So why gather so much stuff that we don't even need?
Yeah, it's a good way to like declutter your life, I think. I've been struggling with that. As you can see, I like to have a space that's filled with stuff. But I'm intrigued with the whole minimalistic lifestyle. I do that with my computer. Like, I have nothing on my desktop. It's completely empty. Like, even right now, I re-uploaded my Windows, but even before that, my desktop was clean because I felt like if my desktop was busy, then my mind is suddenly busy. And if I want to sit down and write, I can't do that because I'm distracted with like 75 different icons. And I've learned that applying those concepts here on my digital life has really helped. But in my physical life, I am more of the Casey Neistat theory where there should be, it's messy, but it's my messy. So I know where everything is. Like, I can go through my entire bookshelf. It's not color coded. It's not, alphabetically or organized, but I know if you tell me where to pull out a book, I'll pull it out in 3 seconds. I think there is value in minimalism though. And, the more Matt Devella videos I watch, the more I'm convinced that that's probably something I need to do. But yeah, I'm glad that it's helping you out. Like, have you felt like your thinking and your conscious, like, your brain has been a lot less heavy because of it? Have you felt any substantial like cognitive differences, or is it just physical?
Yeah, I wouldn't call myself a minimalist just yet.
Yeah, are you on your journey?
I think I'm on a journey. I'm on a road that's gonna take a while.
Yeah, wait till you get married and your wife brings in like all her shit, and then I want to talk to you about that.
Well, I would give her a book. So the book that kind of influenced me toward minimalism is called Goodbye Things.
Oh wow!
By Fumio Sasaki. It's the new Japanese minimalism, and Japan is a society where it's prone to earthquakes.
Yeah.
All the time. And the first thing that happens in an earthquake is all your material objects start attacking you.
Yeah.
And they're getting that revenge.
Yeah. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Because most of those things are unused.
Yep.
They require maintenance, and if you don't maintain them, right? So the example of the earthquake that he gives is, so because of all these consistent earthquakes, because of the environment, it pushed Japanese to become minimalists. Having less things.
Yeah.
Because these earthquakes would break all their stuff.
Yeah, just because of circumstances, they were forced to do that.
And why invest?
Relocate or whatnot because of this destruction.
Exactly. So, and because of minimalism, that society was able to flourish.
Yeah, they're one of the superpowers of the world, man. Like, have you seen Tokyo? That place is futuristic. And yeah, I guess, you could account, I can see an argument for that really flourishing. Yeah, for sure.
And
sorry, go ahead.
If you look at their technology and their designs,
yeah,
like I own a Honda Civic.
Yeah.
And that's a minimalist car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's the bare bones basic. Right?
Yeah.
You pop open the hood. You can explain to a 2-year-old how the car works.
Yeah, what everything is, where everything is. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, that makes sense because their science also follows their lifestyle now, doesn't it? Yeah. That's interesting.
What other books are you reading or are you into? Because I saw a video which kind of inspired me recently as well. Was how you wanted people to like make most of their quarantine period, and what are the 5 good reasons why you should read. And I thought that was a really great take on reading and books.
Yeah, thank you.
What's your Goodreads list like?
Man, my Goodreads list is so. It's a bit long. It's a bit convoluted. I really started off my reading journey 4 years ago,
Yeah.
right? When I had a co-op, when I was on co-op, I had a little bit of time to read.
Yeah.
And I started off with biographies and self-help books.
Yep.
And then I dabbled in a little bit of history. I've dabbled in a bit of fiction as well, but majority of my stuff, I love biographies. I love learning about people's lives.
Yeah.
And, potentially I could try to, find some fine points in their life, which I can kind of live by.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love biographies. I love history, self-help. So that's my genre.
One of the strongest biographies I've read, I think we talked about this yesterday as well, was the Steve Jobs biography by Walter Isaacson.
What do you think of that?
That was amazing. Have you seen the movie after that?
I have.
The Michael Fassbender movie? That movie, I watch it every time I'm demotivated. That, like, just the way he moved through life, and it's not a hugely popular movie. It didn't do a lot in the box office or anything, but just the way Fassbender carries Steve Jobs' persona, I was inspired by it. Yes, he's an asshole. Yes, he's a dick. Whatever you want to call it. He's all of those things, and he accepts that. He wears it on his chest. But at the same time, he was a genius. Something small as like the computer not saying hello, that bothered him. For us, that's like, yeah, we can live by it. You don't have to say it. It doesn't have to say hello. The first 35 minutes of that movie is just a struggle for this guy to make this computer say hello. And it's little minutia, like minute things like that really affect the future of our progress. And that's what I learned a lot from biographies. Like, I read Bruce Springsteen's memoir, and one thing that I found common in his memoir, Jobs, Bob Dylan, Stephen King, was that struggle. There was that initial struggle for the first good 5, 7, 8, 10 years where they were going nowhere. And there's a lot of points in my life where I'm like, man, I feel like I'm stuck, I'm stagnant, I'm not moving. If you're not swimming, then you're sinking. All this stuff comes in my head. But as you said, the more biographies that I read, the more life stories that I read of people, the more I was invited to the fact that, hey, it's going to be hard for a while, but then it gets better.
Even when I just watched, and I would highly recommend watching the Bill Gates documentary, because you see his struggle, you see his work ethic. The man took no weekends off, no vacations, worked like 15, 16 hours a day, probably even more, to build Microsoft to where it is. And now when I look at him, everywhere he goes, he has this bag of books, and he's constantly consuming knowledge. And I think that's one of the main things that you can kind of find common between all highly successful people that they read.
He does this thing which I was really cool, like, was inspired by. He takes think weeks, which is basically, because his lifestyle, it's really like loaded, right? He's always on the move, always something coming up. So every so often, like every 6 months, he'd take a couple of weeks off, go to his cottage. It's a small cottage, maybe not bigger than this room. There's a bed. It's like an open concept apartment. It has a mini refrigerator full of Diet Coke. That's all this man consumes. And no internet, no Wi-Fi, a landline. If someone wants to reach him, it's by the water, and just reads. And he has a yellow legal pad where he just takes notes, thinks about stuff, ideas, whatever it is. And he has like this big stack of books. This guy finishes 4 books a week, man. So imagine his Goodreads.
That's his way of detoxing.
Yeah. That's his way of detoxing.
Did a 14-day phone detox. Tell us about that. How was that?
Yeah, to kind of add to your points about Bill Gates' reading habits, I think all successful people have that in common. It's the fact that they read.
You have to read,
right?
There's no other way around it.
And if you look at the book, the fact that the book is almost like someone's life work, right? They've spent thousands, maybe hundreds of hours into that piece, just thinking, reflecting, and digging out the jewels within their lives. And it's such a high quality piece of work that you're consuming. It's not something like it's not like a chips, right? It's not your French fries, right?
Which is really easily consumable. This is something that it's been refined and tweaked to the best possible outcome.
This is dense stuff. Like every book that I've read has evolved me, has changed my personality, has leveled me up in so many ways, right? So sorry, your question.
We're talking about how Bill Gates takes a week off to do a detox in a sense, and you did a 14-day phone detox. How was that?
Man, I think that was wonderful. What happened was my last phone that I used, I ran that thing for 4 years.
What phone was it?
OnePlus 3.
Yeah, those Android phones will give you that lifetime. The modern ones won't.
And its keep goes. It can probably last me 5 or 6
You have
years.
OnePlus as well, right?
Yeah. Because I really like the quality.
This video is not sponsored by.
And when you get a new phone,
Yeah.
just like a new car or a new laptop, a new anything,
Yeah.
maybe even a new wife
Foreign Islam. Let's go.
or a new girlfriend, maybe, you're always like tempted. You always want to be on it,
Yeah.
right? And for me, like the phone just looked different, and the limitations that I had on my last phone didn't kind of correlate or transition to this phone.
Yeah.
So for me, I needed a detox. I needed to establish that relationship again,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of like a friendship,
Yeah.
right? Or a relationship that you're in. You need to reestablish those boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, listen, with my phone, I'm only going to use Facebook, social media, Instagram for producing. I want to be a producer.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a consumer because I've been a consumer my whole life,
I agree.
right?
Strongly
So
agree.
you guys are two producers as well, which I love, and you've invited me to your podcast. So what are your perspectives on producing and becoming a producer?
I mean, you can be both of them, but you can't be both of them good. Like at the best abilities. So either you can be a really good consumer, watch all the Netflix shows in the world, watch all the YouTube videos, watch all of the whatever's, right? Or you could be a producer and you can make those things so that other people can watch it. There is a fine balance between the two. Very hard to manage, but you can't only be a consumer and then be a producer as well because all of your time is taken up. That's my opinion on it.
I think there can definitely be you can strike a balance between the two, because I feel like in order for me to produce, I need some inspiration, which I get from consuming.
Yeah, it's a cycle for sure. Like even in writing, they tell you to be a good writer, you need to be a good reader.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way around it. There's no other way to be a writer of fiction, nonfiction, romance novels, manga, whatever you're writing. You can't write without having a pool of somewhere to dip your head in and come out so that you're refreshed. And you need to be a good reader. That's a part of being a creator, is that you consume what you want to produce. I agree with that. But you can't only be one thing. So you can't only produce without being a consumer to know how the thing is going to be made. And you can't only be a consumer and then want to produce as well, because your time is spent consuming. There is a balance between it. Hard to manage, especially in this age where it's all distraction. Like if I want to go on Twitter and do one tweet, it takes me 5 minutes because I open Twitter before I can even hit the tweet button. There's a whole wall of like notifications. Someone's DM'd me. I just watched a documentary called Social Dilemma this yesterday night. Changed my life, man. It scared me about the way they get you by when you open an app, the prompts that they send, the notifications that they send you. I've had my notifications off for all my social medias for the past 6 months.
How was that?
And it's life-changing. Whenever I open my phone, there's no notification thing on the top, except for WhatsApp. Everything else is off. So if I'm going on Instagram, it's because I want to, not because it's prompting me to. And that's a big difference that I saw in consuming social media stuff. As opposed to like producing it, I always fall back. I always look at people who are better than I am, the Peter McKinnons, Ali Abdals, Matt Devellas, and I always want to aspire to be that level of creator. And that there's health that could be healthy, and that could also be really toxic.
Selective consumerism. I like it. And I think this is minimalism in terms of what you consume.
Yep.
You're very
100%.
selective on what you consume.
Man, life's too short to like watch another episode of Indian matchmaking, You can't do that. Like it's just impossible to do that. So you want to know what you're consuming, and you don't want to consume. Like there is space for bad media to consume because you need to know what's bad. So in order for you to not to make that, but you can't.
I feel like
live
the
your
way
life like
these
that.
apps are designed, they're designed to keep you on. Keep you scrolling. When you finish an episode of Netflix, literally in 5 seconds, it's not even asking you. It's gonna replay the next episode.
Yeah.
And I feel like this kind of addictive sense of my phone, where if my phone's just lying on the table, I have an Android, so it prompts me when I have notifications. It has that light blinker. I'm with the corner of my eye, I'm constantly looking for notifications. If it's a WhatsApp, when it's going to be in red, or if it's Snapchat, it's going to be in yellow. So I'm kind of like, why am I looking at those things? And I've stopped Snapchatting and Instagramming every time that I go out or when I'm having food. I'm not snapping my food, because there came a point in my life where I was like, why am I going out? Why am I going to this concert? Why am I going out to eat? Am I going out because I want to go out, or am I going because I want to show people, hey, look at my lifestyle, look at what I'm doing?
One thing we did, because we love music, we used to go to concerts, and first few concerts we went to, we noticed that all we were doing was literally watching the concert through our phone screen.
Yeah.
So we made a rule that no phones on the concerts.
One of our friends, he doesn't record anything at a concert. His phone is literally in his pocket, locked away, and he's like, you know what? I want to be in the moment. I want to live in the moment.
Right. I love the conversation, the topics that you guys were discussing right now, where, kind of living in the moment in a sense, rather than being distracted.
Yeah.
Right. And if you go across the world in different eras, I think there are always distractions, and it's kind of like the human instinct. We're animals.
Yeah.
Right. We are animals which are, we're influenced by things very easily.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it be eating pizza. I'd rather eat a pizza than eat a salad any day.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. And I'd rather binge watch Netflix for like 4 or 5 hours than read a book for 4 or 5 hours. Right?
Yeah.
There's some things you have to work toward, and some things that it's kind of like rolling a ball down the hill.
Yeah.
These short-term pleasures in life, they easily roll downhill.
Yeah.
But those long-term pleasures, those things that are painful in the moment but will give you joy in the long run, those move the ball uphill.
Yeah.
Right? And those are the things that I want to push.
Yeah.
Because I, as a human, as that animal, want to push my bounds. I want to get outside of my comfort zone and really enter that new world.
100%. It's the same thing. Like, I feel like you're talking about like instant gratification versus long-term gratification.
Yeah.
And our generation, especially Gen Zs, millennials, they're like accustomed to instant gratification, man. Like that's a pandemic that we don't talk about.
I think
that's mental health that's happening. Like
there was a moment in the documentary where there's this girl who posted a picture on Instagram, and
you saw it too?
No, my friend was talking about it yesterday. And the girl posts a picture on Instagram, and she only gets like 50 likes, and she gets depressed.
Yeah.
So, and that's what Instagram is doing to us. Like, have you ever asked your question, why are you posting on Instagram? Like, what is the one reason?
I stopped posting personal pictures on Instagram
because the only thing that we're looking for is validation, instant gratification, validation, likes, comments. And I think I really liked Instagram not displaying likes anymore.
That's only for us though. That's not everywhere else. You don't get likes when you watch your Instagram, do you?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's only for Canada. We don't get likes, but I think they're like testing us or beta testing us or something. But everywhere else in the world, you still get likes.
But yeah, intentionalism, right? Like why? I love that question, Bashar.
Yeah.
Right? Like why are you doing that? And that's something that I always, I'm trying to push in my life. I want to be intentional with what I do.
Yeah.
With what I say, with what I eat, and how I live my life.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to live a life like a lamb, right? Or a sheep, just following the flock and just eating, right? And then dying, getting butchered off.
Yeah.
Right? That's a pathetic life, to be honest.
I agree.
Right? And since I start implementing these things in my life, since I start getting out of my comfort zone, right? Whether that be embracing a program nuclear engineering, where mathematics was my kryptonite.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna push through, even though I may not be the strongest.
Yeah.
Right. And at the end of the day, working at OPG.
There we go.
Good accomplishment.
That's the goal.
Right.
That's the American dream.
And I was able to push.
That's what you.
I didn't have that GPA.
Yeah.
Like people with 4.0 GPAs cannot work at the company during a COVID era where I'm working.
All my cousins are gonna hit you up now. Sorry about that.
Well, hopefully with the female ones.
Sorry about that right now. But all my cousins, be it male or female, they're in your DMs right now.
Yeah.
They're like, bro, either hook me up or let's hook up. right? It's either or right now. I'm sorry on behalf of my family, but that's what's happening.
I think Nazar might be my brother-in-law soon. Nazar and Bashir.
Oh my god.
Welcome to the family. Yeah.
Before we go, I want you to give me 3 books that you would recommend us to read and our readers to read as we move forward.
Man, that's a tough one. I would recommend
Top 3. Let's go.
books where I think you guys would. I would only recommend a book to someone when I feel like they may find joy in that.
Yeah.
Right. That changed my life. I think productivity, minimalism, intentionalism.
Yeah.
These are all the facets, the common beliefs that we have.
Yeah.
Right. These are things that we have the common ground in. But I think another thing that really changed my life was fitness.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And we need to move as humans. And the book that really changed my life would be Spark, the revolutionary new science of exercise in the brain.
Yeah.
Okay. And
By,
sorry,
who's it by?
it's by I forget who it's by.
No worry, I'll put in the thing.
And the second book that I would say that changed my life is The Way of the Superior Man. It's about not only relationships, when you get into relationships, inshallah, right? But also about a man's purpose in life,
Yeah.
the drive in life, right? And that feminine and masculine that I was explaining to you, how arts is the feminine
Yeah.
and engineering is the masculine,
Yeah.
right? And how to balance that in your life, how a man can balance that in his life, and finding your calling, right? That's what we're doing here. We're trying to find our calling on this planet.
Yeah.
It's not easy,
No way.
right? And I think this book helps.
Yeah.
And the last book that I would recommend is, I know Nazar, you're into fiction,
Yeah.
but this is also a bit of a biographical fiction.
Yeah.
It's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Okay.
He's a Holocaust survivor, and he explains his journey and the aspect of logotherapy. He's a psychologist who was sent to Auschwitz,
Oh, wow.
the most horrific and largest concentration camp at the time.
Yeah.
And he explains what he saw and observed from a psychologist's perspective,
Oh, wow. So he has like insights on what was happening.
insights as to what happened. And after experiencing all that, he wrote this book,
Yeah.
and he explained from a psychologist's viewpoint,
Yeah.
from expert's viewpoint, what he learned and how it changed the way in which he saw life.
Damn.
And the book starts off very painful, where he's sent to Auschwitz. The first thing they take from his jacket pocket is the complete manuscript, rough copy of his first book.
And they take it away.
And they take it away and they burn it. Probably burn it.
Yeah.
That's painful.
And he rewrites that book. He rewrites that book after, like I think a decade or something
Yeah.
that he was in that prison.
Dang.
So those are the top
those
three.
are powerful recommendations.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we'll leave on this like positive note that we should keep on improving ourselves, keep on pushing ourselves to do and be the best that we can. You know, that Kobe Mama mentality. We need to apply that. I'm really grateful for you to come, for being our first physical
Thank you.
guest
Yeah.
in this room
amazing.
studio. I truly appreciate that. Hopefully you can get you on you come back, right? Like this was fun.
Absolutely,
You enjoyed it, right?
man.
Okay, good. We'll
Absolutely,
work it
man.
out.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
You
this
know,
was
I had
amazing.
a blast.
This-
I had a blast.
I learned a lot. I talked to you. I had this new, fresher perspective of a thing that I was totally against, which was engineering. I was like, nobody should be able to do that. And like watching your videos, talking to you right now, I see it now. Like it's clear now. There's clarity between my thought process and of what I thought was and what it is now. And so I would thank you for that. And thank you for coming.
Thank you, and I hope I convinced Nazar to re-enroll in engineering.
No. Not even. No. But
I'm kidding.
thank
I'm
you.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I was just your father's spirit came into me.
Okay, yeah.
And I was just like, let me just.
Well, on your way down, if you talk to him and he asks you he's just gonna just like, dude, made up beta. This is my son.
But
That's gonna be funny.
but honestly, I think inshallah, I think you will be very successful with the mindset. And you don't have to be an engineer, you don't have to be a doctor, you don't have to be a lawyer to succeed.
Yeah.
And I think our communities need to realize that,
Yes.
and slowly they will.
Yeah.
We just have to prove them.
Hopefully, I can get you back on another podcast and we can talk about that.
Definitely, I'd love to.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for having sitting with us. And hopefully, we'll see you soon.
Absolutely.
Peace out.
Peace out.